Thank you for being here with us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started. We have refreshments, snacks, coffee. If you would like some, feel free to get up at any point in time. But to begin, my name is Gabriella McLeod. I am the Associate Director of Student Affairs here at Bishop Moore, and I'm joined by my amazing college counseling team. Bruce, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Bruce Walford. I'm the Director of College and Career, and so it's great to have you all here tonight.
I'm Mackenzie Cherry. I'm one of the college counselors.
Hi everyone, and I am Eric Hennis.
Awesome, and before we get started, Mr. Mulford's going to lead us in prayer today.
All right, let's bow our heads. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, thank you for this evening. I thank you for this time of the year, especially this Christmas season, where Christ came to be our Savior. I pray that we remember that in all the busyness and hecticness that we sometimes find ourselves in. And God, I pray your blessings upon tonight. Pray your blessings upon our juniors and their families. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Awesome. So before we go ahead and get started, I just wanted to share a little bit about this school year. So the junior year is the most important year academically in your high school career. It is the last year on the transcript that'll have final grades, right? It is also the year that you can only request letters of recommendation from your junior teachers. So this year is incredibly important in building relationships with your teachers and ending strong. And we'll talk about all of those different things. But this year is very emotional as well because we're starting the college process. The college process sometimes goes smoothly, sometimes it kind of goes in a loop, but everyone ends up where they belong and where they are meant to be. Our office has a multitude of experience, so we will hold your hand throughout the entire process, and we will go through every single detail in tonight's presentation. So before you start writing down a bunch of notes, I just want to reassure you that tonight is going to be information overload. So I'm going to give you a lot of information. It'll be a lot to remember, but don't worry, you're going to see this presentation more than once. We're going to share it with you. And then also in the springtime, you're going to have a one-on-one meeting with your college counselor. It'll be you and your student together in an intimate setting where you can really talk about all the ins and the outs of the college process for you and your child. And this will be the presentation that you all will sort of follow through. So tonight you will see this for the first time, but you're probably going to see it 10 more times. Okay? All right, and at the end of the presentation, we will all spread out to answer questions that you may have at the end. Sounds good? All right. Okay, so the overview. So the first things first. It feels like a big decision to say, I don't even know where to start in picking and selecting the schools that I want to apply to. So what we will do in our one-on-one meeting, we will go through a variety of different points that helps us define what the perfect college list will be for you and your family. So how do we find the best fit based on what your student needs, right? So the first thing that we look at is the type of educational academic environment. That includes what kind of professors your student wants to be in, what kind of student to professor ratio. The second is academics. So an example would be if a student says, I want to study business, it would make sense to go to a school that offers the major of business, right? So that's one of the preliminary things that we look for. Size. Some students do very well in a big environment. Some students prefer a small liberal arts school, right? So all of those different things go into play. Location, campus, and quality of life. So one of the major things that for students we try to remind them is, you're picking your home for the next 4 years, right? This is one of the first big decisions that students get to make, where they're going to fly their nest and they're going to be in a different nest, right? So it's so important that they feel comfortable, that that campus is the kind of campus where they can thrive, right? We have some campuses that are traditional, like the University of Miami, where you drive through the gate and everything is right on campus. Or there are some students that prefer an open campus, like NYU, in the middle of a big city, where they get to commute in the subway and go from class to class. So every student wants and feels comfortable in different places. We will help you figure that out. Now, a college list. We will help you create your final college list. A healthy college list, a college list that I feel comfortable with as a professional, is about 8 to 12 schools. So the way that that list is designed is the top 3 schools are your reach schools. So those are your dream schools. Those are the schools that sometimes are a little bit outside of your academic profile, right? So we're shooting our shot for one of the schools that you've been thinking about for a long time. Our target list is the bulk of the list. That's 6 to 8 schools. Those are realistic. Those are in the ballpark academically of the student's profile. We will help you figure that out. And the last 2 schools are your safety schools. Those are the schools I can guarantee a winning lottery ticket that you're going to get in. So at the end of the day, wherever the chips fall, at least there's schools on your list that will say yes, right? So that will be a balanced college list. After your official one-on-one meeting with your college counselor, they will provide you with a list that'll be pretty lengthy in size, and then you as a family can go through it in sort of process of elimination. All right, so expectations. So this is an important slide. These expectations is what you can expect from us as your college counselor. These are the expectations that we, as an office, are expecting from the student and then from the family. So the first, what can you expect from us? We are going to set all of the internal deadlines. They are going to be way in advance of the official deadlines of each and every school. So the first deadline is November 1st. It wouldn't make sense for us to say, hey guys, turn in all of your essays October 15th. That gives us 2 weeks to make sure they're perfect. No, we're gonna ask for everything way in advance. And so we'll set all the deadlines. We will review every aspect of the application before it's submitted. So nothing leaves our office without us putting eyes on it and also giving feedback. The next is we're going to support, encourage, and advocate and advise the student throughout the process. So because the process isn't always smooth, there's always things that happen, we will advise you as things happen, right? And so we will help you get through the entire process. And then, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we will share preliminary lists of schools that we think would be a good fit for you and your student, and then you all can look at the list intimately as a family. All right, so what is the expectations for the student? Meet all set deadlines by our office. That's number 1, meet all deadlines by us. The second is share all internal deadlines set by schools with us. What does that mean? I'm glad that you asked. So what I mean by share all deadlines by schools is that if a school requires, let's say for example, you're applying to the School of Music, and you apply to the school is now going to give you separate deadlines for your auditions, different pieces that you have to turn in. It is incredibly important that you share those details with us so that we can keep you on track, right? So we constantly have to be in a flow of communication. The third is meet with college counselors weekly, not monthly, not bi-weekly, but weekly. So we need to see you once in our office every week, even if it's for 15 minutes during lunch. And last but not least, constant check-ins are a priority. So sending us Schoology messages, sending us emails, being in tune with us is very important. All right, so what do we expect from a family? So our expectation is that we work in partnership, right? So that we are directly aligned together. It is important that families and students research the schools on their list. Sometimes going to visit, researching them through their websites, even visiting a college fair and speaking to a rep. All of that is a part of the research process for each and every school. The third is support and check in with student and college counselor throughout the process. I can't tell you how many times parents will take a back seat and allow the student to do the entire process by themselves, which we do appreciate, but it's very important that parents stay plugged in. if there is a need for financial aid, we need to know all of those details, right? And so it only works if we all work together. And last but not least is communicate any concerns with us. So if you're applying for financial aid, finances are important, please communicate that to us. If your student is being recruited by an athletic team, that's important that it's communicated to us as well. So anything that happens, a grade slips, a student drops a class, before that even happens, please have a conversation with us. We have sent thousands of students to college. We have gone through every single dilemma, hiccup you can even think of. So we would like to prevent that for you all. So please feel as if we are a part of your team, okay? All right, so what do colleges look for in an applicant? This is the meat and potatoes of how colleges will review you. When I worked for the University of Miami as an admissions director, I can tell you that this is very much how we were evaluating students. So the first things first, whatever your GPA is on your transcript, please forget that number. Do not even look at that number. Do not even think that a college will be evaluating that GPA. Every college in the country, from Valencia all the way to Harvard, will recalculate every single GPA based on whatever they think is important on your transcript. So an example would be schools like Emory in Atlanta. If you're applying to a STEM major, they might only count your STEM classes as a part of their constructed GPA. Some schools might not include band or art in their GPA, right? Whereas we do. So every school will recalculate a GPA. Now, the way colleges will review you academically is in this way. They separate rigor and they separate the final grade, whereas the GPA marries those two. They separate them. So the way that rigor works is when all of us as college counselors fill out your child's letter of recommendation, we have to fill out a form. Every counselor in the country has to do this. We have to put in what category the students fall in terms of rigor. These are the only categories that exist. Most demanding, very demanding, and just regular classes across the board. Most demanding is a student that's taken every hardest class from 9th grade all the way to senior year. Very demanding is a mix, and demanding is a light mix, right? And so that's how they'll look at rigor. The second way that they look at your grade is they look at it as a flat grade. So an A is an A, a B is a B, a C is a C. So there's no bump the way an honors bump or AP would give you. They look at the grade flat. The way colleges think about it is a student's responsibility to take higher level classes and excel in them. So to them, that's very important. That's how they start to separate the types of students that fit into the profile of their academic experience, right? So you want to make sure that you fit into some kind of rigorous box. All right, so colleges will look at APs, they'll prioritize rigor, and then they'll look at for consistencies and patterns. So I will touch on the consistencies and patterns. On a transcript, I can easily eyeball, just by the grades and the rigor. I can see trends. I can see when grades have an upward growth, when a student has done a little rigor, done well, increase the next year, and increase the next year. That's called an upward trend, right? But then we also have students that something happened in their 4-year program and they might have had a dip, right? All of those things on the transcript tell us a story in admission. The tricky thing about admission is that you want to make sure that you control the narrative. You want to make sure that they're not filling in those gaps. So let's say hypothetically on your 4-year transcript, a parent got ill, or God forbid, something negative happened, right? Parents divorced, or there's something that happened that negatively impacted your performance. That is something you should tell on the college application. There's an additional information piece on the Common App that we will coach you, and we will write something very short, very nice and compact that details why there was a dip. Sometimes that's okay, right? Depending on what the circumstance is. And so those are the concerns that are important that our team knows so that we can advise you on how to package that in a way that feels authentic and also helps you strategically to get into the best fit schools. All right, so standardized testing. I will leave this to Mr. Mulford.
All right, well, good evening. Another part of the piece of the puzzle of college is testing. Okay, that's the most exciting part, right? I see the smiles on everybody's faces. But testing is very, very important. The test not only is important, but the preparation of the testing is important. First off, test optional. We've all heard about this. This has kind of exploded after COVID. In college, a lot of colleges went to being test optional, where students didn't have to take an SAT or an ACT in order to qualify to attend that school. There was a huge trend in that direction. What we're seeing right now is another trend back towards traditional testing. And there's going to be pros and cons to both. So that's where it's very important when the student and the family is putting together your college list is really investigate how do these colleges handle testing. Some colleges will be test optional, but that's not always the best choice. Because if you take testing off of your profile, off of your application, the colleges are left with less information. So sometimes testing is very important, but it all depends on the situation of the student and the testing scores and the college. So when you are out researching colleges, research their testing ways that they handle it. And if you're going to ever visit a college campus, which we highly encourage you to visit many college campuses, make sure this is one of the questions that you ask during the tour, your meeting with advisors and things like that. Test prep. So again, not only is testing important, but the preparation leading up to testing is important. There are many free resources to help you with test prep. SAT through College Board has free test prep. ACT.org has free test prep right on their website. Here at Bishop Moore, through our curriculum, we have a program called RADAS. RADAS offers free test prep through their program. So take advantage of a lot of the free programs that are out there. And there are other programs that you can certainly pay for. But there's a lot of good quality free programs that you can use as well. And the thing is not just to take test after test after test, but make sure you plan enough time to prepare for the test before you take it. Pretty much throughout the year, there's an ACT or an SAT offered every month. But don't just sign up every month, I'm taking a test to see if I can get my score up. Again, make sure you plan enough time to prepare for that. The testing timeline, and we can go to the next slide. These are all of the dates that is offered, okay? So when you're looking at a testing timeline, you want to plan it out. And the spring is the most important time to take the tests, okay? That is when the students, there's less on their plate, because once we get to next fall, there's a lot on a student's plate. You want to be very careful. Do your best not to be taking SAT and ACT tests next fall, because the application process is going to be very intense. So preparing to take these tests before we get to August. The March 10th date is in red for ACT, because that is the only test that will be given here on campus to all of our current juniors. Okay? Students don't have to sign up for that. It's not an extra fee. It's already built in. We register for it. We take it right here on campus during the school day. Okay? However, all of the other dates up there are Saturdays. Okay? And you would register online. And then attend that at a school in close to your home. You can, as long as you register ahead of time, you can find a school close to where you live, so you don't have to drive too far. And then there's AP testing. This is, there's last couple weeks in May, where every student around the country is taking the same test at the same time. Students, make sure you take time to prepare for these tests. They are very, very important. Because what's unique, and as you know about AP testing, is the only way you can get college credit is to pass the test. Doesn't matter what your grade was in quarter 1, 2, 3. It's all about the test. And some schools grade that test differently. Most would say that a 3 is passing and offer you credit. However, some schools say you must need a 4. And for certain courses, it might be a 5. There's not a one standard across the board answer that says if I get this score, I will get college credit. So again, when you're talking to schools, you're going to go visit them, talk with advisors, ask them what their grading criteria for AP testing is. STEM level classes may be higher. So just make sure you ask about the good question to know, so you kind of know that ahead of time. Maybe this school is a better choice because I'm going to get more college credit for my AP test than this other school. Super scoring. Just to cover that really quick, super scoring means if we're just talking about SAT, you can't cross test. But if you're just talking about SAT and you take it multiple times, it'll take your highest English, combine that with your highest math score. And that will be your combined super score, okay? And then in ACT the same way. If you take ACT multiple times, you'll take your highest English with your highest math, and that will be your combined super score. Okay, so when you hear super scoring, that's what that means. And then for letters of recommendation, I'm gonna pass this along to Miss Jerry.
For letters of recommendation, so letters of recommendation can be another essential piece of the application. So with those letters, they can kind of be the chance to finally bring some context to some of the things that are on your application. Because it's one thing for your student to say, I'm involved in these clubs, I'm in this AP class, but it's another thing for the adult teaching it, or adult outside of here with the optional letters, to be able to say, yes, they do have those leadership qualities. I can trust them. They know how to advocate for themselves and ask for help if they need it. So when we are talking about setting some of those internal deadlines and everything, one thing that we are aiming for all of our juniors is that before the end of this school year, when we're all going home for summer, every junior will have requested 2 academic teachers for a letter of recommendation. Now for those 2 academic teachers, we would want them to be core teachers, meaning either an English, math, science, foreign language, or history teacher. And we would like for those to be the teachers from this year. They are the teachers that have had you most recently, and they can talk about how your current skills are. Looking at the other ones, you will automatically get 1 counselor letter. You will not have to ask us for it, but that is where it can be important to come and meet with us. The more that I know about you, and how Ms. McLeod was talking about those hiccups, the more that I can put in my letter if I need to help explain something. If we transferred and it was a hard adjustment, we need to talk about it. If there was one of those unfortunate circumstances that did impact your grades, this is my chance to verify and say, no, it's not just an excuse, this did happen. And then we do encourage students to have 1 optional letter. So if you have a job, an internship, you did a summer opportunity, this is another way to show, 1, that I'm doing something outside of school, that I'm taking initiative, and have another person just talk about how amazing and awesome your student is. Again, these letters are a very big support piece of your application, and we want to make sure that everything in those letters are only emphasizing our amazing qualities. And also, like Ms. McLeod said, we will be reviewing those letters. We do want to make sure that everything leading our office is of top tier quality. But one thing to also remember is that teachers do have the right to say no. And quite honestly, if a teacher feels the need to say no, you probably do not want them to write it anyways. But if you are not being your best self in class, if we are distracted, if we are on our phone, if we're playing Brawl Stars on our iPad, that might not be something that a teacher wants to write about. They want to write about how you took the time to come in after school when you were struggling with that chapter. They want to talk about how you're always raising your hand in class and being that person to answer questions. And then when it comes to the letter of recommendation request process, all students will request them through our college planning platform, which Ms. McLeod is going to talk about in a little bit, and so I won't steal the thunder with that one. But I am going to pass this off to Mr. Hennis to keep us going.
A little commercial break, a little costume change. Let you digest all the information you've gotten so far.
It's like Thanksgiving. You eat a plate and then you wait a little bit and eat again. Make more room. All right. So the essays and the supplements. So the writing part of the application is one of the most important pieces of the entire application process, because this is really where the students are going to distinguish themselves. A 4.0 is a 4.0 is a 4.0. A 1210 is a 1210 is a 1210 on the SAT. It doesn't matter who the student is, where they went to school, a GPA number or a score, that's what they are. What's really going to distinguish the students and their application from the other students and their applications is going to be this writing piece, if the colleges are using these pieces. Some schools do not require any writing samples. Some schools do require. It's all up to the schools. Something also that the students need to understand is that our students are not competing against students at Edgewater or Windermere Prep or Lake Brantley or Lake Howell. They're not competing for seats at the colleges against those students. Our Bishop Moore students are competing against the students that are sitting right next to them in class. Because all of the students who are here at Bishop Moore all have the same curriculum options. They all have the same grading scale. They all have the same everything. So in order to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, the students need to figure out how are they going to decipher, how can they distinguish themselves from other Bishop Moore students. So this is, again, why this is a really important piece of the puzzle for them. The essay writing piece is a process. It is something that is very different and unique than a lot of things that our students are used to. It takes time. It takes intentionality. So much of our world is instant, it's automatic, it's messages, it's tweets, it's instant food in the microwave, it's streaming whatever we're watching. It's automatic, but there's nothing about this process that's instant or automatic. And for most of the pieces, it takes months to actually work through. And this is a piece of the puzzle that really is challenging for many of our students. But these essays is an opportunity for students to show knowledge or research of the school, to support self-advocacy that's going to support the opportunity for them to self-express, to show their personality, to show and practice introspection, and an opportunity for the students to apply through expression something that they've learned and how they would move forward with that newfound knowledge or experience. So this is a really great activity for that. So we have partnered with the Writing Center teachers and the junior English teachers this year in working with the students on creating their essays. So while the students aren't going to need their essays until the fall of 2026 for their college applications, we started already this fall in 2025 so that the students kind of tap their toe into the water, start getting the juices flowing, and start getting used to what's going to become a norm for them over the next year. So we have already met with students in the honors and the standard classes. We're going to be meeting with the students in the AP classes the week we come back from January. And what we're doing with them is giving them the 7 most common prompts that historically or traditionally students are using to write their college applications. So we're giving the students an opportunity to read these prompts, to be thinking about how they would respond, and start fleshing out ideas. So we present this to them, we sit down one-on-one with them, so each of the students get a chance to sit with one of the counselors or the English teachers or the Writing Center teachers, and we say, okay, well, what are you thinking about? Let's write some ideas. Well, what would you think about this? How do you feel about that? I would encourage you to think about this. And we have a discussion to start fleshing out that work. And it's something that they're going to be presenting to their teacher in class, and they can be working on throughout the spring semester to use for their applications next year. Speaking of the number of writing samples and supplements, not every college is going to require them. So a student may apply to, say, 3 schools. Only 1 school requires 1 essay and 1 supplement. Okay, that's just how that student's application process will look. If students go with a more selective list of schools or a much higher list of schools, there are going to most likely be more schools that are going to need more writing pieces. So that's just the way how that's going to go. So a student shouldn't compare how much they have to do with their process with another student because it's going to be different. Looking overall at the process looking at the overall process, not only with writing, but also the college application process. The top 3 challenges that I have kind of seen over the years, number 1, procrastination. Because again, nothing is automatic or instant, especially when you're trying to do something as important as distinguish yourself with other students. Number 2, a lack of focus in reading what is being asked of them in an application or a prompt, and digging deep and thinking about it. Again, a lot of what our students struggle with is reading, stopping, thinking about it, reading it again, and then moving forward, either with a response, with a question, or an action. It's amazing the number of times that if you just tell them, say, okay, wait, I know you have a question about this, but read it again. What does it say? And they read it again. Oh, okay. It's amazing. But they all do it. So again, that's another challenge. The other last challenge, a lack of genuineness, specificity, and standing out. It's just going for that, I'm just going to write that down and be done with it. That's not going to help them in their process. So we really want to help them to try to really dig deep. So extracurricular activities and the resume, we are going to be sharing with the student a platform to help build their program, their resume. So we're going to be working with them and showing them how to kind of formulate that document, to kind of get their ideas put together down on paper so that they can either use it for writing their essays, to give it to their counselor or the teachers for writing the recommendation letters, or even just to submit to the colleges as part of the materials that they submit for their application. Just a one note, I do have something up here about auditions and special talents. So if there are students who are applying to programs that are for performance, musical art, theater, dance, those types of programs, a lot of times those students have 2 admission processes going on at the same time. They have the straight up admissions through the admissions office, but then there's the admissions to the program. They might have a portfolio to put together. They might have an interview to go to. They might have a recording they have to produce. They might have to do a video or a dance audition. So there are different pieces of the puzzle for a student's application depending upon what type of major they're going into. And that's just one that kind of stands out as a unique factor. The last thing I want to say about the extracurricular activities, when you look at what the colleges are trying to absorb for who are these students, right? They can tell a lot by what a student puts on their resume and their application. The colleges would much rather see a student who has a handful of activities that were consistent all 4 years, or they started in a club as a member and then they took care of an organized activity or a committee, and then by senior year they were a board member. Maybe they started out as interested in going into veterinary science, and so they took biology, and then they took our biomedical class, and then they started volunteering at the ASPCA, and then senior year they got a part-time job at a veterinary clinic, and they job shadowed a vet. It's those types of things that show fluency, that show consistency, that show how things are developing over time. It is much better to have quality and depth to their application, to their activities, than to have quantity and breadth. They know that students who have a list of 25 activities in clubs of organizations on their resume, the students are not involved in all of those activities, at least not in a very strong strong way. We all only have 24 hours in a day, and the students are sleeping for hopefully 6 to 7 of them, and they're in class for the other 8. There's only so much time to be involved in all of these activities. So they really want students to be involved, to have a variety of things, but to show depth and quality in making a difference, in growing and from point A to point B when you're looking at the overall experiences that students have. Oops. Okay, college athletics. So for any students who are looking to play in college, so these are 2 simultaneous, separate, but connected processes, because you have recruitment with coaches and you have admissions through the admissions office. They both have to happen. They both happen simultaneously. They're separate, but they're still connected. So we want to make sure that students and families understand that. The college and career counselor, meaning the 4 of us, our staff, we are the primary coaches. The students need to look at us as the coach. We are the primary, everything kind of starts and ends with us. Mrs. Belden, she's the Associate Athletic Director. She kind of oversees and handles anything that is connected to the athletic piece. So talking with coaches, making sure that the students who want to play Division I and Division II have been registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center. If coaches need transcripts, she's kind of helping them through that piece. But students can't just work with her. We know that that's an exciting part of the going to college experience and hopefully being able to play. And it is, it's a great opportunity, it's very exciting. But a lot of times students forget that there's a whole other half of the process, which is to actually go to school. So we have to make sure that students understand that yes, they will be working with Mrs. Belden, but they absolutely have to communicate with us. They need to respond to our messages. They need to be coming to our meetings when we ask them to, and that the college and career counseling staff is the primary in helping them through the application process for athletics. And last but not least, anything that the students are asked of to provide to coaches, students should not be handling anything of college application materials unless it's something that they're asked to provide, meaning their application, their resume, their essays. That's it. If anything that has to do with recommendations, transcripts, that is all handled by and through the adults. So the students do need to ask and talk to us about that before handling any of those types of documentations. Okay? All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. McLeod. Do you have this?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, I promise this is our last slide, and then we'll let you guys go home. So other factors. So we talked a lot about all of the different pieces that colleges use to evaluate a student's application. What are other factors that can lead to a decision being a yes and can also hinder a decision? So there are factors that you control. A lot of schools will say we don't do demonstrated interest, but the truth is that they do. So in admission at the University of Miami, what we would do is when students were in the middle, like on the cusp, so when they were being evaluated, some people on our staff said yes, some people on our staff said, I don't know, maybe. Those guys ended up in committee. So when a student's application ends up in committee, we will pull really intentional data that helps us understand if the student is really interested in coming, right? And how do we pull that data? So the first is, have you visited campus? Have you been on campus and done a guided tour? Have you attended a virtual tour, a virtual panel? In the times of COVID, universities and colleges invested a lot of money in creating virtual experiences for students. So the idea that you can no longer catch a flight and visit a campus is no longer a thing, right? So now you can literally sit in your pajamas at home and tour a campus. So anytime that you register for a visit, it should be in the student's name, birthday, and their email address that they will be using to apply. That's how they're going to track the data. If you are offered an interview, when you apply and a school decides, like Wake Forest loves to interview students, Babson loves to interview students. If they offer you an interview, you must say yes. You cannot say, no, I don't feel like doing it. You must say yes, right? We will prepare you. We will help you get ready and feel confident. But that interview also is a data point, right? Online chats. In February, the consortium here in Orlando that we participate in are going to host a college fair. At that college fair will be all of the big schools with the admission reps that read the applications for Orlando and Florida. They will be there. So the person that will be making a decision first on your application will be right at their booth. It is incredibly important that you are strategic when you go to that college fair. That college fair is going to be packed, it's going to be a lot of people, and it's going to be an overwhelming amount of schools there. So being able to look at the list beforehand, highlight the schools that you want to go to, have a batch of nice questions that you want to ask the reps, questions that are not readily available on the website. Like, they have to be intentional questions. They can't be questions like, how many students are on your college campus? An admission rep is going to roll their eyes inside, right? So you want to ask something that's very specific. And then after the college fair, it might be nice to send a thank you email and say, oh my gosh, I met you at the college fair. It was so lovely to meet you. Because guess what? In the fall, all of those reps come back on our campus and they have one-on-one information sessions right in our office. So at that point in time, you can go back and say to the admission rep, hi, oh my God, we met at the college fair. So you start to build a relationship. As a rep at UM, I can't tell you how many students I met that I developed a personal relationship with, that when they ended up in committee, they were my favorite kids. And so I could speak to them in a really colorful way that came off of the paper, right? So building that relationship is really important and can make the difference. And last but not least is open email sent by colleges. So this one you don't need to know right now, but I just want to put the bug in your head because it will matter this time next year. When you apply to a school will now officially invite you to have your own portal with them, right? So you apply to 10 schools, you will have 10 different portals for 10 different schools. These schools will stop sending you emails. They're going to send them to their inbox in their portal, right, that you have to keep track of. Because it is their portal, they can see when you open a message, they can see if you click the links in the message, they can see if you fill out their questionnaires. All of that is data, right? So they will interpret all of those data points as if you're interested. If you are not interested in a school, you're not going to be checking your portals, you're not going to be opening messages or clicking links. But if you are, you're going to be on it, right? And so schools use that data to determine if you're interested. I will give you this one last thing about schools. Schools are a business, right? So when all of you go to check in terms of ranking, where's the place that you go? You go to US News. US News has all the rankings of the schools. One of the biggest things that they have on that list is acceptance rate, right? So acceptance rates are tricky percentages because schools do not like, I repeat, they do not like to give yeses to students, even if they are admissible to their schools. They want to make sure that you want to come. Every yes that they give, they have to calculate that into their US News ranking. So all of these data points is how they determine if they're going to give you a yes, right? So keep that in mind as you're navigating this whole process. All right, so factors that you control. These are factors you don't control. These are institutional factors, but they're important for you to know. So the first is need blind. Let's say that you are applying for financial aid and you check yes on that box. Some schools, they don't care if you're applying for aid. They can pay for every student to attend in cash. If you need a pencil, they can pay for it. It doesn't matter to them. So they're need blind. To them, it's not a part of their admission process. Need aware. Those are schools that it does matter to the institution if you are able to pay to attend their campus. So if you check yes on financial aid, That means that every financial aid document, FAFSA, if they accept CSS profile, all of those documents need to be turned in by a specific date. If it's not, they're going to assume again, you're not interested in coming because you don't even know if you can afford to attend their campus, right? They don't mind that you're applying for aid. You just need to make sure that everything is on time. And because our team knows that, we have financial aid nights. So we have a financial aid officer that comes on our campus, and they will sort of walk you through all of the questions and details of FAFSA and CSS profile. We will keep you on task. We will tell you when the deadlines are. We will make sure that you have all the information way ahead of the deadline. But that is just something that I need you all to know, to keep in the back of your mind. It's better to be proactive than reactive. All right, so the next is institutional priorities. This one's a tricky one. I can't tell you how many times in all the years that I've been in this business that when decisions come out, like tonight was a big night, FSU was released, Emory was released yesterday, today was also Clemson. Students will race to our offices and they'll say, oh my God, how did so-and-so get in? I have a higher test score, I have a higher GPA. That happens a lot, right? And I can tell you that oftentimes it's institutional priorities. And what do I mean by that? For example, Duke, we'll use Duke as a perfect example. In the past, they didn't have enough female applicants to STEM programs. That's a big deal for them. They want to diversify the demographic on their campus for specific majors. So for them, when a female applicant applies, they're going to take them way faster than they do the boys, right? And so that's an institutional priority. Another example could be NYU Stern in the past didn't have enough Latino applicants. So for them, they would take those students faster than any other. Every school is different and the trends change over and over and over and over. So they're hard to predict, right? So just keep in mind that race, gender, ethnicity, all kinds of different things, even the majors that you apply into, all of those things can make a difference. That's why sometimes when you see students applying to business, they're the most competitive pools because those have the influx of applicants at times, right? Engineering programs are sort of the same at some schools. So just keep that in mind. And last but not least is legacy. It's very important for us to mention legacy because we'll get students that say, oh my gosh, my parents went to UF, why didn't I get in? Well, legacy is fantastic, but it doesn't make or break an application. So it's lovely to have it on there. We will make sure it's on there, but please keep in mind it doesn't make or break an application. All right, so Maya Learning. Maya Learning is a great tool that we're bringing onto our campus for the very first time. This will be the first year. I have used Maya Learning in my past in different spaces that I've been in, and Maya Learning is the best of the best. So right now we use Naviance, and Maya Learning will be replacing that. So Maya Learning is fantastic because what it does is Maya Learning houses all of the data of every single student at Bishop Moore in the past, where they've gone to college. All those data points are inside this system. So when you and your student log on to your portal and you start to play around and pick the schools that you like, you can see how your student trends in terms of where they are academically, where their test score is, and it gives you some sort of a baseline of where they would fall in the competitive nature of whatever respective school you're looking at. In Maya Learning, students will also request letters of recommendation from their teachers around spring break. In Maya Learning, we will also send transcripts, letters of recommendation, school profiles. Everything will live in this perfect, neat ecosystem. The great thing about Maya Learning is that if I have to send a transcript or an early decision agreement for a student, the minute I click send, it's in the student's folder at whatever school. So it's connected to Common App, it's connected to every school system. So it's a beautiful network that you will have access to on Monday. So you might get it a little sooner, but I don't want to promise you that. But by Monday, every student in the junior class will have access to their accounts, and parents will also have their own respective accounts. So the idea is that over the winter break, you and your families will start to sort of navigate the system, play around, and then just have a better idea when you come meet with your college counselors one-on-one. Okay? All right. Sure.
Just a quick question. Is Naviance goes away? That's replaced?
It's replacing Naviance, yeah. Yes, Naviance is sort of an older system. Maya is a nice, fresh system. So you'll get to see it when you use it. Do you have a student in the senior class? Just a junior? All right, so thank you for joining us tonight. But before I let you go, I know that we gave you guys a lot of information, so I'm gonna give you some quick bullet points to take away with you. What are the most important things that your junior needs to be focused on right now? Number one is they need to have a very strong final junior year academic performance. It needs to be very, very strong. We're at the half of the school year. There's enough time to turn the ship around if we have to, if they're in a tight little spot, or if they're doing great, then to continue that trend. Academic performance, I cannot tell you enough how important this year is. If it dips, like, we have to sort of do all different kinds of things. So performance is number one. Number two is test prep. Students must be working on testing, right? In your minds, the last SAT, ACT that a student ideally should take should be the August test, right? Because once the senior year starts, it's a lot for a student to be doing college applications, be in the thick of their academics and test prep. It's a lot, it's a lot. So I would say the target mark should be August. If you have to keep taking the tests, and that's fine, but August should really be the finale of that. So test prep all the way until now. And I will just say last thing about test prep is like a sport, right? You can't anticipate to go to the game fully ready, prepared without doing some sort of test prep. Whether you do it with a tutor or you do it on your own, you have to continuously do it over an extended period of time. The test score grows in a nice way the more you prep. All right, let's see if I don't forget. Grades, testing, and last, two more things. Teacher recommendations are critical to the success of an application. Transcripts tell us who the student is academically in the classroom. The teacher's letter brings that to life, right? So students have to build strong relationships with their teachers. They have to care about how they are showing up to class each and every day. Does that mean that a student needs to be the perfect, ideal student in the class? Not necessarily. If you're struggling, go to tutoring, ask for help, build the relationship with the teacher, go over your test problems. That builds a relationship with the teacher. Sometimes when a student, I will tell you this is a true story, let's say a student ends with a C in calculus. It was their hardest class, and they get a letter of recommendation from that calculus teacher. That teacher can say, they did get a C, but they were my hardest working student. This is what they did in the class, and draws a picture of who they are. That letter now stands out, right? Now that letter sort of adds a reason to the C on the transcript, right? So being intentional about that. In spring break, when you request the letters of recommendation, it's hard to start that relationship then. You have like 2 months left to school. There's not much you can do, right? And then the last but not least, this summer, students need to have some sort of meaningful experience that allows them to have an activity that leads into the resume. So usually this summer experience, whatever it is, has some sort of connection to whatever it is that they want to study. So if they want to go into nursing, maybe they're interning at a hospital, maybe they're shadowing a surgery, maybe they're working at a pediatrician's office at the front desk. If a student is interested in engineering, there's different things that students can do in the summer, but being able to have a meaningful experience this summer is critical. And I would say those are the main points. I know it's a lot, but if you just focus on those things, that should be, you'll be in a good spot. So again, I thank you all for coming tonight and hearing us give a spiel. And don't forget that we will be giving you this presentation, and we will be seeing you again in the spring in your one-on-one meetings. Thank you.